Hello everybody. In this video, I'm going to take you through the procedure of adding a node in the existing cluster. Alright. So I have a two-node setup, as you can see on the screen. Node 1, node 2. Alright. And I have a storage area network. So node 1 and node 2 are linked with the storage area network, as you all are aware of it. And this is the existing cluster. I am required to add the third node, which I have just included. And since this part of adding a node is purely practical, it doesn't have much theoretical concept involved, but I still have a separate video for it. If at all you want to watch it for understanding in a better manner, you can do that. And to begin with, like I said, we have a two-node setup, and we are going to add a third node to make it a part of the existing cluster. And to do this, we need to have a new machine, and we have a new machine which I was talking about, the third node, which you can see it here on the screen. When I say a new machine, I mean a fresh Linux installed machine. So this is a purely Linux installed machine, and it has nothing on it. No software, no grid, nothing. In fact, this third machine is not even a part of the cluster yet. So that is what we are going to see. How do we make this third machine as the part of the cluster? Alright, so node 1, node 2, and then node 3 should also become the part of the existing cluster. So let me just quickly log into the grid user from first node and crsctl status resource -t. So as you can see it on the screen, we just have two nodes and nothing else. Even the database that I currently have, I just have one database called Dunhill, and which is open only on two nodes. It doesn't have any third node added over here, or it doesn't display any third node, because the third node is not the part of the cluster yet. There are only two nodes. So let us begin from here to make this third node as a part of the cluster. There were certain basic things that I have already done, which is to set the IP addresses and stuff like that, to set up the host name and all that. And this third machine that you see, I just cloned this machine. Since we are working in the virtual machine environment, I just have cloned this machine, and that's it. I also made certain changes, like adding the IPs, the public and the private IP that is required within the cluster setup, and I have also changed the host name and things like that. But in the real time, you will get this machine as an image from your administrator. It could be the Linux administrator or the network, not the network administrator, of course, an administrator which works towards creating or sharing the machines. But over here, you will have to create a machine by cloning it, and I'm sure you're aware of the cloning process in virtual machine. So to begin with, I have cloned this machine, and I have changed the IP addresses and the host name and stuff like that. So everything else is all set, and just to check the IP address of the machine, I'm using ifconfig. You can see the IP address of the machine over here, which is the public IP, and this is the private IP. Alright, and the host name is node3.cluster.com. So my the domain name is the cluster.com, and this host is node3. So node3.cluster.com is what the entire name of this machine is. So the new node will now, like I said, has got nothing apart from the IPs and the host name, and we need to set up all the rest of the things so that this node will get in sync with the existing nodes. And once you finally equally arrange the node with the existing ones, then you may move further to begin with the making other more lot more changes. Okay. So let us see what are we required to do now. So IP addresses have been changed already, but I have not made those changes inside the etc hosts yet. This file still looks like the normal one. So I would rather go to the node 1, and I will check the condition of the etc hosts over here, and I see that I only have the existing nodes IPs mentioned over here, not the new node which is yet to join. I will have to mention those details over here as well. So let me start doing that. 147.43.0.3 is the public IP, and as I said, localhost.local domain is going to be node3.cluster.com. then I have node 3. Similarly, I am also required to change the public IP, I mean to add the public IP 0.3 node 3 hyphen private dot cluster.com node 3 hyphen private. And in case of virtual IP, I will have to add this as well, 13 node 3 hyphen virtual IP dot cluster.com node 3 hyphen VIP. Right, scan IP will still be 1. I'm not going to change that since we are not using a DNS server setup. Alright, so these are the only changes that I'm required to make under etc hosts. I will save and quit. I'll have to copy these to the second machine, since the second machine will not have any such thing updated about the third node, and it will be not communicating with the third node in that case. So you can actually see it on the screen. This is the second node, node 2, and it only has 2 node setup information like what we had on the first node. Since we have changed those things on the first node, we will copy the etc host setup to the node 2. Right, it's asking me for the password. This has been 100% copied. Let me cross check it. Alright, earlier when I checked, it wasn't showing me the third node information. Now that I have updated the information by copying the fresh file, now it has overwritten the file that was earlier existing. We also need to copy it to SAN. Alright, it has been copied to SAN as well. We will check it on SAN. Right, the third node information is reflecting over here inside SAN. That's it. Now it is also required to be copied to the third node instead of making those changes manually. So I'm now copying it to the third node as well. It's been copied to the third node 100%. Now let's go to the third node and check it. The last state of the third node's etc hosts was like this. Now it will be overwritten with the fresh information. So this is what we were required to make the changes inside the etc hosts. Now we are also required to this node, since it is still not accessing the storage area network. If I type fdisk over here, it still shows dev sda. It doesn't show sdb at all. And even if I check it here using Oracle ASM list disks, I won't see data in OCR video or anything as such. So like I said, I don't see any OCR VD or anything as such over here, since there is nothing which is updated on this node. So what I'm going to do now is to access the open filer from here. :446. So this is the IP of SAN, and I am required to access this so that the information which is not available inside SAN, that information like the third node which is yet to become the part of the cluster, should also be able to access SAN and its components. That is something which I am required to update inside SAN itself. So over here, this is pretty simple. I have to get inside system. I will have to add the third node's information over here, node 3. Alright, I haven't added it correctly. Let me add it again. Node 3.cluster.com 147.43.0.3 is the IP and the maximum allowable subnet mask. Now I'll click on update. If I scroll down and check it, now the SAN has got the information of the third node as well. Apart from this, I am also required to make certain more changes that should be inside volumes. I see ISCSI targets. I will have to click on this. I will have to get into network access control list, and I see that node 3 doesn't have any authority to access storage area network, or for that matter logical unit number. So I will have to change the deny to allow, and I will have to click on update. Alright, it's been updated now. I just have to click on logout. I'll close this. I'll get back to the third node. I will have to use a command ISCSI ADM -m discovery -t st -p, and the portal number is what I'm going to use, 147.43.0.5, and now it gives me the logical unit number over here. Alright, and it says it is mapped. This is the actual portal number that we were accessing just now. Now since I have used this, I will also use a command called service ISCSI restart. Alright, now I'll check fdisk -l. Now it shows DEV SDB as well. So moments ago we weren't able to see SDB. Right over here we were only able to see SDA, no SDB at all. Again I use some other command over here. So this is where the result actually ended, showing SDA only. When I allowed this node or change the settings to put it as allow, now when I check it, I'm actually able to see SDB as well, like the other nodes do. But I am yet to do few more steps right before I move further to make this node as a part of the cluster. I am required to create users and required groups, and the directory structures that I have on the node 1 and node 2 should exactly be the same over here as well. So I am required to create the groups, the users, necessary directory structures, like what it has on the other machines. And yeah, before we do that, we can also check the connectivity. If it's pinging to node 1, it says yeah, it's actually pinging, it's a 0 packet loss. And when I check it on node 2, it's also pinging to node 2. Self pinging should also be required to check if at all, in case of so it says 0 packet loss. So the third node is able to ping all the other nodes, and the same case is going to be on from the other nodes as well. So let's not check that. So like I said, we have already granted the access to the third node to the shared storage, as it is going to be the part of the cluster. So we are done with that step. Now we'll start creating the users, groups, and the required directories. So let's begin with creating the users first, creating the groups first. Right before that, I have to make a small change over here inside etc default user add. I see that it is /home, which I am required to change it to app, because that is the directory which Oracle recommends to use. I am going to put it as u01 app over here. Save and quit. And since I will be having an Oracle user already inside home directory, see, you can see a folder over here created with the Oracle username. I will have to remove this directory entirely from here. Alright, maybe the user might exist over here. I will also have to remove it this way. It says Oracle home directory not found. Okay, so we don't have to worry about it. Oracle user has been removed. We will create the Oracle user separately. Right before we create the Oracle user, we are required to create the groups first. And to check how many groups are already existing, I will get into cat etc group, and I am only bothered about 2 groups currently, which I am expecting to be existing already, and I see it over here, oinstall and dba. Both the groups are already available over here. Alright, so apart from this, I am required to create 3 more groups. So I will begin to add those groups. Group add asm admin, group add asm dba, group add asm operator. So these are the 3 groups that I was required to create, and these groups will also be there on the other side, I mean on the other nodes, the existing nodes that are the part of the cluster. Apart from this, I'm also required to create some directories, or I'll probably go ahead and create the users along with this, but for that I need a directory. mkdir -p u01 app. I do not have this directory. I just changed it from the default location, but I did not create it on the physical location. So I'm required to create this. I'm also required to create another directory called Ora inventory, and u01 app Ora inventory has also been created. Now I'm going to create the groups, I mean the users, I'm sorry. I need to create 2 users. User add -g oinstall. I need to check the equivalency of the users while I'm giving the secondary group names. So the grid user, what have I actually given it on the other nodes? Let me just quickly have a look. id grid, and the primary group for the grid user is oinstall, of course, and the secondary groups are asm dba, asm admin, and asm opa. That's what I'm going to give over here as well. asm dba, asm admin, and asm opa to grid user. Alright, now I am required to create another user called Oracle. Right before that, I need to check what groups are assigned to this user Oracle. I see the primary group is the same as oinstall. Secondary group has a change over here, which has dba, asm dba, and asm admin. So I will give dba, asm dba, and asm admin. It's dba, asm dba, and asm admin. Asm opa is not required for Oracle user. Alright, user add -g oinstall. That's all. Both the users have been created. I'm required to change the password for the user, starting from grid user. I'm going to put the password, whatever password I'm willing to put there, and I'm going to change the Oracle user's password to. Oh, looks like I gave in some wrong password. Right, that works fine now. I'll reconfirm, probably cross check, and I see grid user and Oracle user are over here along with the Ora inventory as well. I am required to assign the permissions of grid user to the directory Ora inventory. So let me quickly change the permissions. Chown -r grid oinstall Ora inventory. Oh, okay, u01 app Ora inventory. Now I am also required to give the permissions. I'm just going to change the ownership. I'm assigning the read and write permissions. I'm done with that as well. I'm required to create certain more directories. mkdir u01 app 1120 grid. This is where our grid home is going to be available. So that is the reason we created this way. It says u01 app 11.2 grid, no such file or directory. Sorry, I did not mention that. That's the reason it was giving me the error. I'm going to create another directory, mkdir-p u01 app oracle product 1120 db home _ 1. Alright, I have created both of these directories, and make sure the directory structure should also be exactly the same as what is available on the other two machines. Like what we have created in case of the users were exactly the same. The groups, primary and the secondary, will have to be the same. The same thing applies when we are creating the directories. We also have to assign the permissions to these directories. I'm going to assign the permission for the first directory over here, which is grid o install to u01 app 1120 grid chmod -r. Right, I'm going to assign the permission to the other one, which is going to be oracle o install to u01 app oracle product 1120 db home. Right, 1120 db home. Alright, that's all. Let me quickly check if all the permissions have been assigned, because cross-checking is something that we are required to always do. Yeah, so starting from Aura inventory, it's being owned by the grid user, and the other directories have also got the sufficient permissions that we are required to assign. Alright, and now we are close to the next step to make the machine as a part of the cluster, since we have created the required directories and all that stuff. Now what we are required to do next is to create we are actually required to check the ASM libraries, since this is 6.3 Oracle Enterprise Linux 6.3. We don't have to check the ASM libraries. It is understood by default that the ASM libraries are available. It is just that I'm required to configure the ASM libraries now. Alright, and I will use Oracle ASM configure -i. So the default user for this ASM library would be grid, and the group which it actually will belong to should be o install. Right before that, let me just check what group did I assign over here. Yeah, so the group over here is o install by default, so I'm not gonna make any changes there. I'll keep it as o install. Start Oracle ASM driver on boot, yes. ASM disks on boot, yes. Oracle ASM exit, Oracle ASM init, Oracle ASM scan disks, alright, and Oracle ASM list disks. Sorry, I used the wrong command here. Now it shows data in OCR-VD, which is accessible from the third node as well, which was only accessible from the first and the second node. Now, since the third node is about to become the part of the cluster, soon after each and everything is being done, it is getting in, exactly in sync with the other two nodes. So, what all have we done? A quick refresher. We have set the IP addresses. We check the connectivity, network connectivity of within all the three nodes, and then we have gave the access to the open filer to the third node, so that the node can access the open filer. And we have created the groups, users, necessary directory structures, given them the right permissions, and now we have also created ASM libraries. The last thing that we are required to do is to move etcntp.conf to etcntp.bkp. Service ntpd stop. Okay, it says failed because looks like it's already stopped. That's the reason. Yeah, ntpd is actually stopped. Alright, now to move further, we need to set the SSH connectivity. And what is SSH connectivity? It is nothing but secure shell connectivity. It means whenever the grid user or the Oracle user is willing to copy something from first node to the third node, or from second node to the third node, or vice versa, all of those users should be having authentication that they can connect to the other node and continue their work or copy whatever they want to. Since we are copying everything from root, as you can see it over here, root, and copying it to root level from one machine to the other machine, so it is working on the root user level. Since these users will have their own identification keys which are required to be unique and which are required to be available from the first machine to the other machine, only then they'll be able to exchange the information or probably copy it from the first machine to the other without password being prompted. So all the time, every time that they copy it, the password will not be prompted. It won't prompt for them for the password. They can straight away copy it from one machine to the other machine. Apart from configuring it for the first time, it will ask them for the password. From the second time, it won't. So let us see how what kind of a benefit do we actually have if we set the secure shell on the new machine. So to set the secure shell, since we have nothing on this machine apart from the directory structure as of now, we cannot set this SSH connectivity, which is secure shell connectivity, right from here. We need to get onto the first node for that. So first node is right here. I'll click here, I'll get onto the first node, and from the first node I am required to I'm logged into the grid user already over here. Yeah, I'm inside the grid user, and I will have to get inside. Yeah, it says grid, so cd I'm getting inside grid. If I type ls, I will see a directory over here called deinstall, and if I get inside this, if I type ls, I see a file called ssh user setup. So this is what I was actually talking about, ssh user setup, that is secure shell user setup, and this will always be available in all the users that you have on any machine. So this is something closely related to the operating system level, but it still helps us to send or receive the data, or to send any file, or to other machine in terms of using it on inside grid or Oracle, though this feature actually is related to your operating system. Anyway, so since I am inside deinstall, like I see that there are multiple folders over here and files, I will have to look for this ssh user setup. I need to copy this to the new machine. And how do I copy that? I use scp ssh user setup node 3, and I'll have to copy it to the same location where I am currently in, user on app 1120 grid. Alright, I'm sorry, I have to actually copy to user on app grid, the user inside the user. Now it's asking me for the grid password. I'll enter the password here. So this file has been copied. Now I need to cross check onto the third node if the file has been copied or not. I need to get into the grid user. I just need to type ls, and it shows the ssh setup has been copied over here. Alright, since this has been copied already, I just have to run this from here. Let us quickly do that, and it's ssh user setup hyphen hosts. This is node 3, so I'm going to mention that, which is the user is grid. I have to hit enter now. It's actually checking the remote host reachability. Now it says certain things over here. So this is something which I'll just quickly take you through. It says, as a part of the setup procedure, the script will use SSH and SCP to copy files between the local host and the remote hosts. So local host is the machine that we currently are on, and the remote hosts are both of these machines. So since the script does not store passwords, you may be prompted for the passwords during the execution of the script whenever the SSH or SCP is invoked. This is only for one time. And the other thing which it also says over here, the script will set up the SSH connectivity from the host node3.cluster.com. Since we ran it on node3.cluster.com, it is giving us the same information to all the remote hosts. After the script is executed, the user can use SSH to run the commands on the remote hosts or copy files between this host, which is node3.cluster.com, and to remote hosts without being prompted for passwords. Remember, this is something really important, without being prompted for the passwords or confirmations. So only once that the password would be asked, and then you can continue copying the files without being prompted for the password. Why are we actually setting up the SSH connectivity is what you might be thinking about, which I'm going to talk about in a minute or so. And alright, so it is giving me a message over here. It says, do you want to continue and let this script make the above mentioned changes? So the changes that I have actually read for you, I'm sorry I did not read the second note. It says, as per SSH requirements, the script will secure the user home directory and the SSH directory by revoking group and world write privileges to these directories. So it is giving you all the list of things that it is going to do. Now it also gives you a message saying that, do you want to continue and let this script make the above changes? I will obviously say a yes. Then it will ask me for a passphrase. It says the estimated number of times that the user would be prompted for a passphrase is 2. In addition, private or public files are also newly created. The user, what do you want to do? You want to just enter a yes? Alright. Now the passphrase over here is nothing. I will just have to hit enter. Enter the same passphrase again. I am again hitting enter. That's it. Alright. And now it is actually asking me for the password. Alright. And once I enter the password over here, then it will continue to set up the SSH connectivity and all that. And these are the keys, the public key and the other keys that we are going to talk about shortly. So what it actually is asking me for now is the grid user's password. I am just typing the password. I am hitting enter. It says the user may be prompted for a password or passphrase here, since the script would be using SCP. So it is asking me for the password confirmation again. I just hit the password and hit enter. That's all. So here it says SSH verification complete. So SSH setup has been done now, verifying SSH setup. We don't have to go through all that. It just basically in short means that your SSH connectivity, if you want to set the SSH connectivity on the user level, this is how you do. And now, since I was telling you that SSH connectivity, why are we required to do this SSH connectivity, which is secure shell? The reason why we do that is because if you want to copy it securely from a user to user, there is a key which is required to set this connectivity. And we actually run this so that whenever a user is copying or probably want to send some particular data to the other user, it is between both of the users only. It's not going to go to some other user. And since we are going to copy the grid home as a procedure of adding a node, we were also required to set this particular thing. So not just the security that it is actually concerned about, it is also going to help us to copy the grid home from one machine to the other. Alright. And since we have we just completed this, we need to check if we have a folder called SSH inside this user. I think that should be hidden. Yeah, it is not showing up over here. I might have to type ls SSH. Okay, it shows over here. Right, I need to get into this folder. Alright, it says it gives me 4 or 5 files over here. I'm only concerned about this authorized keys and I'll just check the authorized keys over here. It has generated the authorized keys when I was running this SSH script, all these things that you see it over here which I have just highlighted. So it has actually generated the scripts, and it says it has a unique identification key which is actually in some format which is actually encrypted, I would call, and that's how it shows. And node3.cluster.com is the only thing that is actually identifiable over here apart from anything else. So let's this is the actual key which is going to help to identify that this node belongs or probably have an SSH connectivity set, and this key will have to be shared or copied to the other nodes as well. Alright, so I will copy this to the first node. Right before that, I will get on to the first node, right, and I will check it over here as well. Let me come out of this. I'm inside grid. I need to check if I have any SSH folder over here. I see that there is an SSH folder right over here. I'll get into the SSH folder. I see authorized keys over here already available right at the time when I was putting grid, that time itself. So alright, a huge list over here, a little bit lengthier than what we've seen it on the node 3. So we are on node 1. Remember, this is a little bit complicated, but as soon as you start practicing it becomes easier. So I am looking for some information over here, and it says node1.cluster.com, node2.cluster.com. so without any password being prompted, I can still connect from node 1 to the node 2, but I do not have an option to connect to node 3 since it is nowhere mentioned that node 3 is also available over here. So that is the information which I am required to copy from node 3 to node 1, and since all these keys will be aligned, I will then copy this file to node 2 and node 3 so that this information will be available on node 2 as well, which is still not there, and node 3 just has its own information. It doesn't have node 1's and node 2's information. So how will it connect SSH? How will it establish the SSH connectivity? Though we have already set the SSH connectivities, it will still not be established unless the authorized keys won't be copied at one place. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy the SSH file, the keys, to this particular node, which is node 1, which is already the part of the cluster, to be more precise. Alright, so I'm just going to copy this key to and this will actually help all the nodes to actually communicate with each other properly. Alright, so SSH connectivity will be checked once we copy it from the third node to the first node. So let me copy these things from here. Both the files are exactly the same, so I will just copy any of these lines, right, and I will put it inside this file. So I will have to get inside this. Alright, I will have to copy the key over here. I will save and quit. Now if I check it again, I see that there is a third node also listed since I have personally or manually copied it. I am required to copy to the second node as well, but right before that I will check the SSH connectivity if it is established with the third node or not. I think I need to copy the same thing on the third node as well, only then I'll be able to check it. So let me copy it to all the machines first and then check the SSH connectivity. So SCP authorized keys, starting from node 2, U01 app grid, that's the user. Alright, and I will have to copy it to, see, when I was copying it to the second node, it did not prompt me for a password. If you see it, if you have noticed it, it did not prompt me for a password, and it straight away copied it to the second node. When I try to do the same on the third node, I am sure it will at least ask me for the password for the first time, since I am going to copy these files for the first time to the third node. Alright, this is what I was talking about. I need to enter the password. Now it has copied it to the third node as well. Now let me check it if it is reflecting on the second node. Since the information would have been different over here, I need to log into the grid user and I need to locate that folder. I think I need to get in cd u01 app, then I have grid. Okay, let me get out from here. cd u01 app grid. If I type ls, alright, I see authorized keys over here, which has got the information of node 1, node 2. We can see it over here actually, node 1, node 2 and node 3 in a sequence. Alright, and when I try to connect, let me finish off checking these things first. If I get back to these authorized keys again, alright, the information is not updated over here, looks like. I'll actually get inside u01 app grid. I see authorized keys separately being copied over here. Maybe this is the protocol that it is actually following. I see node 1, node 2 and node 3. Now when I'm trying, I'll try to connect from node 3 to node 1, SSH node 1. It's going to ask me for the password. It's connected. If I exit, again I want to connect to node 1. This time it did not ask me for the password. If you see the difference, you will understand what I actually mean to say over here. And I'm actually connected to node 1 now without even a password being prompted again. Since I was connected when I was trying to establish the connectivity for the first time, I was asked for the password. For the second time when I was trying to connect, I did not have to put any password. I'll exit, I'll connect again. It's again not going to ask me any password. So this easy it actually becomes. So this is how we are actually going to follow it and copy the grid from the node 1 to the node 3. So I'm currently on node 1, I'm exiting, I'm back on node 3. You can see the difference over here as well, or you can see it over here as well. It is node 1 when I was exiting, and the moment I exit it, the actual node where I am actually connected to shows up, which is node 3. When I try to connect to node 2, since this is the first time that I'm trying to connect to the node 2, it will definitely ask me for a password. It says yes, then it's going to ask me for the password. I'm going to enter the password. Now I'm connected to node 2 from node 3 itself, so I don't have to take that headache to go to the node 3 node 2 all the time. I'm connected to node 2. I exit, connection to node 2 closed. I again try to connect to node 2. This time it's asking me for the password for the second time as well. Alright, I exit, I connect to node 2 again. It's asking me for the password again. So looks like there's something wrong with the connectivity which is not set yet. Alright, I'm on node 2. I exit. I need to check what's wrong over here. Anyway, so from the node 1, as I have copied the authorized keys to node 2 without any password prompted, since the node 1 had the first time connection to node 3, I was prompted for the password over here, and then the authorized keys set was copied. I will get back to node 2 this time. I'll try to use the node 2 SSH node 1. I wouldn't be asked for the password since these nodes are already in sync. When I try to connect to the newly or to be added node, which is node 3, I will be prompted for the password, and I'm going to enter the password. I am on node 3, accessing node 3 by being on node 2. I will exit. I will try to connect again. It's again asking me for the password. I am putting the password over here. Alright, so I will again try to connect. I will have to enter the password here. I am on node 3 now. I will exit, and it's not going to give me any issue as of now. So let me just quickly check. I should be able to access it without using any password. It still asks me for the password. The connectivity between the node 3 and node 2 is still not set correctly. The SSH connectivity, to be more precise. Let's check what is wrong in that. So like I said, I will actually check, and I will actually update the authorized keys, or I will probably replace the authorized keys. I will if I type, I'm on second node, and since we are not able to connect to node 3 and it's prompting me for the password, it shouldn't prompt me for the password anymore. So if I type ls-a, I see that there are authorized keys copied here, which I have copied it from the first node, which has the current information, which has included third node as well. But when I see over here, I have another folder over here which I will get into, cd.sh, and I see another authorized keys, set of authorized keys over here. Let me check what this authorized keys will actually give me. It still says only node 2 information, so that authorized keys were required to be copied over here instead of being inside the grid home. So I am grid users home, to be precise. So I am required to update this authorized keys and copy it inside the SSH, so that it will start pinging, it will connect to the third node without any password being prompted, serving the purpose of SSH. So let me get back here. Authorized keys, this is the updated authorized keys which I just copied from the node 1, which I am yet to copy to the node 2 correct into the correct folder. So I'll copy this authorized keys to the authorized keys which is there inside .sh. Alright, now I'll get inside .sh. Let me check if that has been updated or not. Now it shows node 3. The same thing which I'm required to do on node 3 as well. Alright, so I see the SSH folder over here, and I have authorized keys over here. Similarly, what I just did on the node 2. If I check the authorized keys which are openly available here, it has all the nodes information. But if I get inside the cd SSH and if I check the authorized keys over here, it still gives me the third node information. That's the problem. That's where the problem actually lies. So I'll get back here, and I'm going to copy this authorized keys, which is the updated key, to .sh authorized keys. And if I get inside .sh and type ls char authorized keys, now it actually shows the information which I was required to see. Now if I try to connect to node 2, I am not being prompted for any password anymore. No matter how many times I try to connect, it won't ask me for the password, which was earlier giving me the error. Same thing if I try to connect to node 3 from node 2, it won't ask me for the password anymore. I'm connected to node 3. I'll exit, I'll connect again, I'll exit, I'll connect again. No more passwords prompted. Alright, that's all over here, and we will get back to node 1. Since the SSH connectivity has also been successfully established, we are close to see what else are we required to do further. So now the new node, which is the third node, is in sync with the other nodes. We can start actually copying the grid. Right before we copy the grid, there is one last step that we are required to check, and that's the reason I'm on node 1. So on node 1, I will have to get into cd u01 app 1120 grid, and I'm inside grid. If I type ls, I see a directory called Opatch. I'm actually searching for that. It's right here. I'll get inside Opatch. Alright, if I type ls, I see various files that are available for me over here to navigate through, and once I'm inside Opatch, I will just have to type Opatch ls inventory. So Opatch ls inventory will actually give me the list of the grid home, or the grids where they are actually copied. So Oracle home that you see it over here, which that actually implies to grid home. It will not show you the grid home, but I am actually inside grid. You can see it very evidently. It still shows Oracle home. Please do not get confused. This is the grid home. Alright. So it says RAC system comprising of multiple nodes. It still shows local node, which I am currently logged in from, remote node, which I can actually currently access to, which is node 2. So the current situation over here, the reason why we come over here to check the Opach directory is because it shows the number of nodes that are part of the cluster. Soon after we complete copying the grid home, we should be able to see the new node information here as well, which is the third node. So the line 1 which says node 1, line 2 which says node 2, there should be another extra line added over here which should actually say node 3. So we should check this back after copying the grid home. And the reason we come here to check is whenever the patch activity is done, the patch may not be applied to all the available nodes if the number of nodes are not listed over here. So make sure you always check this right before you copy the grid home to the new machine. Alright, and there's one last pre-check of adding a node that we are required to do, and then we'll be good to go to copy grid to the third node. Alright, so that is nothing but we need to run this command called Fluffy. I don't know why is it not running from here. Okay, but this is an important command that I'm required to run. I should actually run it from the bin. Fluffy stage hyphen pre node add hyphen n node 3. Right, so since all the nodes are friends, node 3 is not a stranger anymore to the node 1 and node 2, since they know each other through the SSH connectivity. Node 3 is what I'm required to type over here. And since you see this command, if you have any issues that may appear when we are checking, and this is a pre node add check, before we copy the grid, we need to check if the third node, which is about to become the part of the cluster, which is halfway actually to become the part of the cluster, is not having any issues and can actually go through really smooth during this transaction. Alright, so let me hit enter. Now it should okay, this is what it says: performing pre-checks for the node addition. That's what I was actually trying to tell you, that this is a prerequisite kind of a thing where we check if the node is eligible to be added to the existing cluster setup or not. So it will check each and everything one after the other, checking user equivalence, checking node reachability from node 1, and user equivalence of user grid. So obviously one after the other checks will be done, and once these checks are done, you might end up getting certain errors, which we will talk about once we reach there. Alright, since we are all set up, let me just check what it shows. It says pre-check for the node addition was unsuccessful on all the nodes. The reason, there are multiple reasons for these, which can be ignored, since all the things that we were required to set are all in sync. One of the major errors that you would also get due to this PRVF 5636, because the DNS server, it was actually expecting to get a response from the DNS server, but we don't have any DNS server setup over here. We are just setting up it on the normal setup, which is etc host. We are not using etcresolve.conf over here. So please don't worry about this. Since we've got certain errors, right before we move any further, we need to get into the grid home or UI bin where we actually are, and we will run another command called export ignore pre add node checks equals to y. So this is going to ignore all the so the first thing that we've done over here, which gave us all this result, was a pre node check, and it has given us certain errors, and we are clearly mentioning over here that export the pre add node checks. So we are actually not exporting, ignoring the pre add node checks. I'm sorry about that. So we are clearly mentioning that whatever errors that we've got, we want to ignore it, and we want to continue with the procedure of adding a node. Alright, so that is the reason we use ignore pre add node checks equals y. Alright, so let me hit enter. That's all. Now we are going to add a node actually, and let's begin with the process. So alright, I am at the wrong place. I need to get out from here. I am inside this place. I will have to get inside. I actually forgot the location. There should be a folder with a similar name probably. I actually have to get into deinstall. It won't show me anything here. Right, looks like it's not there here either. Let me just have a quick look where it exactly is. Should be in assistance, maybe. Doesn't look like. Right, so the location was just slipped off my mind. I'm sorry for that. CD OUI bin inside the grid is what we are required to get in, and we will find an option over here which says add node.sh, and we are going to run that command. So add node.sh. I'm running in silent mode. Cluster new nodes equals node 3 is a node which is going to join, and then cluster new virtual host names. So we are going to mention the host name of our virtual IP as well. Please make sure you remember this, or you might end up getting vague errors, and that's going to give you a lot of trouble. I forgot to give the double quotes here. Alright, cluster new virtual host names, which is nothing but the third node's virtual IP, and that's all. Let's hit enter. So it's going to check certain things over here, the swap space and things like that, and then it will start copying the the grid home to the remote node, which is the third node, and we will wait until the scripts get generated. Once it's completed copying the grid home, it will generate the scripts like we get it in the run installer, and once we get the scripts, we will start running the scripts. Alright, now it says instantiating of add node scripts complete, copying to remote nodes, which is the node 3. It is copying the grid home to the remote nodes is what it means to say. Once it completes copying, like I said, we are going to get these scripts, we're going to run those scripts, and once the scripts gets completed, we will see what are we required to do further. So let's just wait by the time this procedure gets completed. I see that it is still copying the grid home to the remote nodes, and then it will go ahead and save this information to the inventory, and then we will go to the inventory and check, and we also get the scripts like I said. So I'm just seeing it time to time, so that once we are done with this, we can move further. And at the same time, we can, by the time the grid gets copied, we can actually check over here. The grid you will see that grid has started actually copying over here. Alright, though there was nothing inside the grid folder on the third node, since it has started actually copying it from the node 1 to the node 3, that's the reason you can actually see the components of grid will eventually start increasing one after the other, and it actually gets copied entirely. So we'll wait for it by the time it gets copied, and once it saves the inventory, we will run the scripts, since it generates the scripts after it saves the information of the inventory, and then we will also go ahead and check the inventory. Alright, so now it says copying to remote nodes have been done, then home copy to new nodes or the node. Saving the inventory is what I was talking about. This is how it says inventory has also been saved. One more information that I forgot to give you: when we were running this script, add node script, it started the Oracle Universal Installer and stuff like that, and it has also performed certain tests, and it says to check whether the nodes that it is going to copy and that it is attached with, which is node 2 and node 3, are available or not, and it says 100% done. And It will also check the space requirements, which I would like to show. It says it is checking the space requirements on the new node, and the new node is nothing but the new node, that is node 3. On the mount point called U01, the space which grid will require will be 3.8 GB change, and the available space is 26 GB, and the products that it is going to install is the list which is given over here, which are the components of grid. Alright, so after that this all has happened, and now warning, a new inventory has been created on one or more nodes in this session. However, it has not yet been registered as a central inventory. The reason why it gives you this warning, it is not an error, remember, it is just a warning, and the reason why it gives you a warning of the central inventory of the system not yet become the node has not become the part of the central inventory yet, is because we did not run the root.sh script, and unless and until we don't run this script, it will still give us a warning. So this is a serious warning. You are required to run the script, and only then, and that is what it says over here. Let's just read it. To register the new inventory, please run the script at so and so with the root privileges on nodes. Which node are we required to run the script on? That is node 3. If you do not register the inventory, you may not be able to update or patch the products you installed. That is what I have been talking about. The following configuration scripts need to be executed as root user in each new cluster node. So we just have one cluster node since we've added. We will have to run this as a root user from the third node itself. Alright, so the first node, it is clearly mentioning it over here. This is the script that you're going to run, and this is the list of node. Maybe 1, 2, 3, as many nodes are you adding. The list of the nodes is given very clearly over here, very precise information. And this is also one of the scripts that you are required to run, of course, on the third node. It is also giving you the direction how do you open a terminal, and I don't think we are required to know that. We will just run this script. I'm getting onto the third node, and I'm going to run it from here. Shift insert. Right, the first script has been completed. The second script, which is a little lengthy, is going to take somewhat time. So I'm going to wait by the time the script gets completed, and soon after we finish running this script, we will again check the ls inventory. Alright, we'll wait by the time the script runs. Maybe this is going to take a minute or so. Alright, so the script that we've just ran, root.sh from here, has been completed, and the procedure that it actually was showing up while the script was executing, it says the CSS daemon was started in exclusive mode but found an active CSS daemon. So it means CSSD process is already running on node 1, and it is actually terminating, and it will end up joining the process which is already running over there. Why would it run a separate process over here, right? And after all those things, it says operation successful, and then it says configure Oracle grid infrastructure for a cluster succeeded. Alright, now like I said, we will have to check back the ls inventory for if it shows the information of the newly added node. So I'm getting back to node 1. I'll come out from the bin, even from OUI. Alright, I'll get into Opatch, and I'll use Opatch ls inventory. I used the wrong command here, I'm sorry, I used I twice. Right, the ls inventory should now show that the grid home is of 3 nodes. So remember that we've done something few minutes ago. It still says Oracle home, please do not get confused, this is a grid home, but now it says RAC system comprising of multiple nodes. Earlier it was only showing 2 nodes, now it shows the third node as well. So if at all you are applying any patch during this time, you wouldn't be facing any issues, and the patch will also be applied on the newly added node, or else only the 2 nodes will have the updated patch, the third node will not, and it is not going to be the part of the cluster. It might end up giving you certain issues, which again will become an issue to be resolved. So this is what we are also required to check, and now it is confirmed that whatever activity of adding a node wherein we were copying the grid home has been successfully done. Now we are yet to copy the Rdbms home. Before we do that, I would also like to show you something from the third node. No matter wherever you check it from, I'm getting into grid user. I'm already here into grid. If I type ls, now everything has been copied on the third node. I'll get into Opatch. Same command, I'm running it from here. There's no difference. I can actually check it from here as well, is what I mean to say. The only difference is third node will appear first over here, and see, the third node is the local node now, and so it basically means that the grid home has been copied successfully, and we are required to copy the Rdbms home. Alright, so let us begin with the procedure wherein we are required to copy the Rdbms home. And yeah, so let me quickly log into Oracle user so I can continue the process of copying the Rdbms home from here. Alright, so before copying the Rdbms home, I am again required to check the ls inventory of Oracle home this time, not the grid home. This is the grid home ls inventory that we have just checked, and we have also checked it earlier than copying the grid home. I am going to do the same procedure by getting inside the Oracle home, u01 app Oracle product 1120 db home. I will get inside the Opach directory. I'm going to use Opach ls inventory. Right, and this is going to give me the information about the current Oracle home, that is the Rdbms home. And what I see over here is there are no interim patches. Alright, forget about that. RAC system comprising of multiple nodes. It still shows that the Rdbms home is configured on node 1 and on node 2. It is not there on the node 3 yet. Yeah, so like this, where it shows the grid home is copied on node 1, node 2 and node 3 is configured on node 1, node 2 and node 3. The Rdbms home is still lagging behind. It still shows node 1 and node 2 only. It doesn't show the node 3. It is required to show the node 3 as well, but there is a procedure that we are required to follow so that it will also get updated in terms of Rdbms home. And since once we the same procedure that we followed inside grid, we have to come back and check it on the Rdbms home as well once we complete copying the Rdbms to the third node from the first node. Alright, so we will start the procedure of copying the Rdbms home. I will get out of this. I'll get inside OUI bin, and from OUI bin I should be having an option to add a node over here. This is Rdbms's OUI bin, not the grid. We are not doing anything related to grid as of now since it is already set. So I'm going to copy the Rdbms home now straight away. I will have to use add node .sh hyphen silent cluster new nodes. Node 3 is the new node which we are ought to add. Alright, now let's hit enter. It says performing the pre-checks for node addition. Let's wait and let's see what else would it say, and is it going to take time, or let's see what it says. Alright, so when I'm checking it on the first node, when I was trying to copy the Rdbms home by using this command, it says performing the pre-checks for node addition, and it was checking the reachability, checking the user equivalence, and it gave me a message saying that check failed on nodes, which is node 3. It is due to the SSH connectivity which is not set between the Oracle user this time. like we have set the SSH connectivity between the grid user from node 1 to node 2 and from node 2 to node 3. We are required to do the same thing again right before we start copying the Rdbms home. It sounds like a lengthy procedure, but it is absolutely in a very uniform way, wherein we need to follow everything one after the other. So I'm going to come out of this bin directory, of course from OUI as well. I'll type ls, same directory in the db home as well, which is deinstall. Alright, I need to type ls again, and I see SSH user setup over here, which I am required to send it to the third node. So I'll copy this and I will send it to the third node. To the Oracle user, to be more precise. Right? The password for Oracle user this time, and it has been sent over there. Okay, let me check what it shows over here. I'll have to log in to the Oracle user. I am inside Oracle user over here. Oh, I'm still in grid user. Anyway, I'll use a new terminal. Right, ls-a, I see the SSH setup copied here. I will have to run this SSH setup exactly the same way that I ended up doing earlier in case of a grid user the last time. Alright, so I will just have to run it the same way. SSH, sorry, not SSH, SSH user setup. SSH user setup. This is the node 3, so it's going to generate the keys for node 3 this time. And okay, then I have hyphen hosts. I need to type hyphen hosts first, I'm sorry about that. Then I have node 3, and the user this time is not the grid user but the Oracle user. Alright, so let's begin. SSH user setup, hosts, and the node 3, and then the user, which is Oracle. Node 3 has to be in double quotes. Alright, so it's going to do the same thing which it did at the time of configuring the SSH setup for the grid user before copying the grid home. So it again says the same. The script will set up the SSH connectivity from node 3 to all the remote hosts, so I don't have to read it for you again. It is exactly the same. The only difference is this time we are using it for the Oracle user. Earlier we used it for the grid user. It's giving me the exact same message. Do you want to continue to and let the script make the above changes? Yes. It's asking me to enter a yes. Enter the passphrase. Passphrase is nothing, you just have to hit enter. Hit enter again. It's asking me for the password of Oracle user. I have entered that. Asking me for the password again. Alright, that's all. SSH verification has been completed. If I check again, I have a directory this time called .ssh. I'll get into this directory. I have the authorized keys generated for this, which only gives me the information of node 3 but still does not have the information of node 1 and node 2, which I am required to add. So I'll have to get into the Oracle user over here. I see the same directory over here, .ssh. I'll get inside this directory. I'll find the authorized keys, which I'm going to soon modify, which only has the first and second nodes information. So the very first thing that I'm required to do is to send this particular key, I mean not to send the key but just to copy it. Alright, that's all. So I have the third node information as well along now. That's all. I'll just cross check it. I see the third node information as well, which I wasn't able to see it over here. Third node information pops up too. I am required to copy this authorized keys to the second node, so that will also get updated, and back to the third node, so all the nodes will have exact connectivity between them. Alright, so I'll copy this SCP authorized keys to the node 2. Alright, and I have to copy to the third node the same way. It's asking me for the password. Remember, the same thing happened when we were copying grid as well. It asked me, it did not prompt me for a password when I was copying the authorized keys of grid user to the node 2, and when I was copying the same authorized key of the grid user to the other grid user on the node 3, it did prompt me for the password. It's doing the same thing over here as well. Alright, has been copied. Let me cross check it quickly. I'm into Oracle user. If I again use the cat command, alright, it is now updated. Let me check it on the third node as well. It's updated too. So let me check if it is pinging, if it's connecting to node 2 without, this is for the first time. Alright, it's connected. Exit. If I try to connect again, alright, without password, no more issues at this time. Alright, when I try to connect to SSH node 3 for the first time, it's going to ask me for the password. Alright, I'm connected to node 3. I exit, I connect for the second time, no passwords prompted. As simple as that. Node 1 already has the connectivity, so not to worry about that. But from node 3, I need to connect to node 1 for the first time. This all connected. Exit, connecting to the node 1 again for the second time without password being prompted. As simple as that. Let me try to connect from node 1 to node 3. It's connected without being prompted for the password. Now I will have to continue with the procedure that I was doing earlier. Adding a node, but for that I need to get into cd 0 app Oracle product 11.2 db home cd deinstall. Oh, it's not in deinstall, it's in cd OUI bin. Yeah, there we go. Right, so I'm going to run this command. This time let's see, hopefully we're not going to get any errors since we have set everything that was required to be set. Let's wait for this to complete its pre-check, and then we will start adding the procedure, continuing with the procedure of adding a node. Let's just wait for a minute or so. So we ended up running this script by getting into OUI bin of db home, this script which I'm talking about, and then it started. This time it did not give us any error. Performing pre-checks for node addition, checking node of reachability. Node reachability check passed this time. User equivalence is also passed. Warning, node 3 already appears to be the part of a cluster. Yes, it will appear as a part of the cluster because we have copied grid home earlier to that node. That is the reason it is only giving us the warning, not the error. Pre-check for node addition was successful. That's great. Checking swap space the same way it did for the grid before copying the grid. It is also checking the space requirements in the mount point U01, and it requires 4 GB of space out of 23 available space, 23 GB of available space, and it has started copying all the database components to the third node, and it's still copying the database home as we can see it over here. We will again have to run the same script, I mean the script in a similar way. If we check it here, we can see that the database home has started copying slowly, which is going to take some more time for it to get copied. We will wait for it by the time the scripts get generated, and then we will continue with the rest of the procedure. Okay, so we have the script generated now, and it says saving inventory onto the nodes. Inventory has been saved. The Rdbms home has been copied to the third node. Warning, it's again giving the similar kind of a warning that we've got while we were copying the grid from the node 1 to the node 3. And the warning is the following configuration scripts need to be executed as the root user in each cluster node, which is the node 3. And it says the script is given over here. Unless and until we don't run this script, the Rdbms will not be configured properly. So this root.sh script is required to run the node 3. If you would have had more nodes, you would have ran it on the multiple nodes, right? It says the cluster node addition db home was successful as an extra message. So let me quickly run this script on the third node. Alright, that's all. The script has been completed successfully, and this is where the procedure of adding a node, wherein you basically copy the grid home by setting the Ssh connectivity, and then you copy you run the scripts, and then the grid home gets completed. Then you run the you set up the Ssh connectivity for the Oracle user, you copy the Rdbms home, and then you get the scripts that gets generated by the universal installer, and then you run the scripts as well. That is where your procedure of adding a node into the existing cluster completes. But there is one more thing. For an example, consider you have a database which just has 2 instances. Adding a node over here, the third node, which you can see it on the screen, which has grid and Rdbms. Let us confirm if we have the grid and Rdbms successfully copied. So we have already checked this in the case of grid, and we did see, like we can see it on the screen, the grid is copied to the grid home successfully. Similarly, the database home has also been copied. So database home and grid home both have been copied already. Okay, since both have been copied on the third node, the grid home, the database home, right, we will actually have to add the instance separately. We cannot expect the third instance to be added right at the time when you add the third node, right? And we are also yet to check the Opach inventory. We will get back to the first node for that, right? And we'll get into cd Opach ls inventory. This time the ls inventory, something similar to the grid home, should also reflect with the third node, and that's what it does. RAC system comprising of multiple nodes, local node, which is the current node where I'm logged in from, and the 2 remote nodes, the third node which is newly added. Alright, so this is the Oracle home, this was the grid home, which still says Oracle home, but it is the grid home. Alright, everything has been done. So I was talking about the instance addition, which is not done yet. It doesn't mean that whenever you add the third node, even when the third node's database home, Rdbms home, and grid home, and the Opach directory and everything else have been perfectly synced, it doesn't mean that the instance for the third node will be added as well automatically. There is a procedure that we are required to follow, and we will follow that procedure right from here. So in order to check what all do we have on the third node, we are required to run a command which will help us to check crsctl status resource -t. This is going to show how many instances do we how many nodes do we have now. So ASM is actually running on the third node as well. These are the basic resources. You would see node 3 everywhere. Node 3 has also been added. If you remember at the beginning of this video, node 3 was not there at all, because it wasn't the part of the cluster. Now since it is the part of the cluster, it will share all the resources equally, like the node 1 and node 2 used to do. But when it comes to these general resources, you would see there is a database called Dunhill, and it only has 2 instances, node 1 and node 2. It is only running on 2 nodes. If I specifically want to check srvctl config database -d Dunhill, it is going to pull up the information of the database specifically, and it says the database instances are only 2, which is Dunhill 1 and Dunhill 2. It doesn't have the third instance, but when it comes to the terms of nodes, we have the third node as well, but the database is very evidently seen that it is not running on the third node at all. This database Dunhill is only running on node 1 and node 2, not on node 3 at all. So it clearly means adding a third node doesn't add the instance automatically. We are required to do certain to perform certain steps to make sure that the instance gets added to the node which has been recently added. Right? So consider a scenario where you are willing to use the database's third instance by creating it by yourself, and for that we need to start running dbca. So I'm going to open dbca. The best thing about adding an instance is you do not have to put the database down and then add an instance. Though the database is still up and running, like you can see it over here, both the database instances are open. I am still opening dbca, and I'm going to perform certain steps over here so that dbca, the database doesn't have to go down from node 1 and node 2. It will still be up and running. At the same time, I'm going to add the third instance, and then that third instance will become the part of the existing database. So I'm going to select Oracle Real Application Cluster Database, the first option. Over here I'll select Instance Management. I'll click on Next. This time I'm going to add an instance to the existing database. So I'll let that option remain selected. It will list the number of databases that I have over here, and whichever database I'm intending to add an instance to will be available for me to openly use. So I currently have only one database called Dunhill, which is up and running. Like you can see the status over here. I will use the username, which is going to be sys. Password is going to be manager. If manager doesn't work, Oracle will definitely. So let's see. I just clicked on next. Alright, so the password is manager in this case. So click next to add a new instance. So it is already showing up the existing instances, which is instance 1 and instance 2, that are active as of now, and it says click next to add a new instance. I just have to click next to add the new instance. Now it says the default instance name is Dunhill 3, which is mentioned over here. Edit the instance name if needed. Select the node on which to add the instance and click next. Very simple procedure, very simple way of explanation over here. It clearly says that Dunhill 3, if you want to change the name of the instance, you can do that. You might choose the node where you want to add it. So by default, I would want to add that to the third node. I wouldn't change the node name, and the instance name is also not required to be changed. So I will keep the information which I can see it over here as same as it is. I will click on next. And I'm just gonna wait for it. Alright, so I have table spaces over here. If at all I want to make any changes, undo table space 3 is what it shows over here. I don't have to make any changes on undo table space 3. Let that be as it is. Data files has got the information over here. Redo log groups has also got the information 5 and 6. So this is pretty simple, and I think yeah, that's all. So while the instance is being added, I can also check certain details in the background, from the alert log file. I can clearly see certain things in the background whenever I want to check it. Alright, so in order to check that, I will just export. I'll not make any changes over here. I'll keep it just like this. We'll get back to this once we export the database. And it's Dunhill 1. Right, I'm connected to the database now. I will quickly check how many instances would it actually show. Instance ID and instance name and the host name where the instance is actually hosted, and the version of the database and the status at the same time from gv $instance. This is nothing but the global view. Right, it says instance underscore ID is not something which I can actually mention. I think it's inst. It should only be inst underscore ID, I believe. I think, yeah, it should be inst ID. Alright, once I complete this, I will quickly see the information and then we'll move further. So alright, so what do I see over here? Instance ID is 1, instance ID is 2, instance name, host name, and the version and the status of the instances is clearly shown over here. Now that I'm going to add a new instance, I will do nothing but I will straight away check a parameter over here. Show parameter background. Right, excuse me. I see that there is a parameter which clearly shows over here, which I'm going to use. I'll just exit. I will tail -f and Dunhill 1. Would it be fine if I do that? Well, I think yes. I need to check the alert. It's Dunhill and trace. Is that correct? Yeah, so I just have to use Dunhill 1.log. Alright, so the moment I see this information, the moment I click on finish, this is what it says: add instance Dunhill 3 on node 3, and this is what it's going to do. Dunhill undo table space is undo table space 3, and all that information that we have just seen, and I'll just have to click on OK. So the moment I click on OK, I will have to check it in the background what it actually does. It actually now started adding an instance. This is what it does in the background. When it is creating an instance, it says create a small file, undo table space, alter database, add log file thread 3, group 5, alter system instance number 3. This is what it actually does in the background when running from here. As simple as that. This is what I wanted to show it to you. We are about to complete the instance addition as well. Once the instance is added, we will check if the instance shows up in the database, which will obviously show up. If at all we have any issues, sometimes it won't, because well, that is something which we can discuss in other videos. Reconfiguration complete. Yeah, it's giving me some more information. So alter system set undo table space, everything else has been done while the instance addition was going on. Since it is still on, we'll wait for some more time. Yeah, okay. Now it also says list of instances 1, 2, 3. Alright, looks like it is done. Do you want to perform another operation? No, that's all. That's it. That's it. well, that's going to continue. So we can actually check it in two different ways. I'm going to log in here. I'm going to use the same command again. So I'm going to use this command to check. Alright. Now if I see, I can also see a third instance which is running on node3.cluster.com. That's the host name, right? And the status of that instance is open. So like I said, this is one of the best things provided by RAC, that you don't have to put your database instances down, or you don't have to put your database itself down. It can still be up and running, and at the same time you can go ahead and add the third instance. And if we alternatively check it over here, the configuration of the database Dunhill, this time it's not going to show the two instances which it was showing earlier. Now there is a third instance which has also got added. So your third node that you have added now also has a third instance running on it of the same database Dunhill, which was only a 2-instance database earlier. We'll also check the status resource Dunhill over here, and it is running on the 3 nodes. As simple as that. So this is where our the database, the adding a node procedure, and in adding a node we have copied the grid, copied the Rdbms, then we have created an instance. So as a nutshell, these are the 3 major things that we are required to do, and you already have the video. You can please follow it and make sure that you get this done. And this is the basic procedure. In fact, this is the final procedure that we follow right from the scratch to the final step, and this is where we complete the adding a node procedure. Thank you so much.